I used to believe that manipulation was something strangers did, that it came from enemies, from obvious threats, from people you never trusted in the first place. I believed that if someone had walked beside you for years, laughed with you, shared your fears, and called you family, they could never be the person quietly rewriting your reality. But I was wrong. Some of the most dangerous manipulators do not enter your life as villains. They enter as friends, as confidants, as the ones who understand you like no one else. And by the time you realize what is happening, your thoughts no longer feel entirely your own. He thought he understood his mind, but what he didn't, Tino, was that a resource existed that could help him rebuild his life. You will find it in the description and comments. At the time, I didn't know I was learning the profile of a manipulator. I only knew that something inside me was slowly disappearing. In the beginning, everything felt safe. We bonded quickly. Now, I understand it was the first layer of influence. The first sign of manipulation was subtle, positioning himself as the center of trust. My decisions were shaped by what he thought was best for me. Over time, patterns emerged. He was always right, not loudly, but convincingly. If something went wrong, it was never his fault. There was always a reason, a justification, a reframing that placed responsibility somewhere else. If I felt hurt, I was misinterpreting. If I was confused, I was overthinking. If I confronted him, the conversation would somehow end with me apologizing. That is a key trait in the manipulator's profile. They do not deny your emotions. They redefine them. Another warning sign was how he managed my perception of others. Small comments planted doubt. I don't trust their intentions. Be careful with them. They're not really on your side. He never demanded I cut people off. He simply made staying close to them feel unsafe. Isolation does not always come through commands. Sometimes it comes through carefully placed narratives. And without realizing it, I began relying on him not just for connection, but for interpretation of reality. The emotional imbalance grew. My successes were minimized. My struggles were absorbed and redirected back to his. Conversations always returned to his needs, his problems, his perspective. When I needed support, it was brief. When he needed attention, it was endless. That is another core trait. The manipulator does not seek mutuality. They seek emotional control. They feed on relevance, on influence, on being the axis around which your inner world turns. I began to change. I became more hesitant, more self-critical. I rehearsed conversations before speaking. I questioned my instincts. I wondered why I felt smaller in a friendship that was supposed to empower me, and still I stayed. Because manipulation rarely feels like harm. It feels like misunderstanding, like trying harder, like hoping that if you explain yourself better, things will finally align. The breaking point did not arrive in an argument. It arrived in a moment of clarity. I began studying the psychology of manipulators, the need for dominance without confrontation, the subtle rewriting of narratives, the absence of accountability, the quiet erosion of another person's confidence. This was a dynamic designed to place him above me psychologically. I was returning to myself. Distance followed, not dramatic, not explosive, just intentional. I chose not to engage in conversations that left me doubting my sanity. I chose not to orbit someone else's narrative. Walking away from a manipulative friend is not about anger. It is about preservation, because staying means slowly negotiating your identity until there's nothing left to negotiate. Rebuilding was not immediate. The mind does not release control overnight. I had to relearn how to trust my thoughts, how to feel without second guessing, how to exist without needing validation from someone who once defined my reality. I asked myself painful questions. Why did I ignore the signs? Why did I confuse intensity with intimacy? Why did I believe closeness meant surrender? And instead of judging myself, I chose compassion. Because manipulation does not succeed through force. It succeeds through familiarity. Today, when I think about the profile of a manipulator, I no longer imagine a villain. True freedom begins in the mind and only then appears in life.